Our reading this morning is A Sorrow Shared by Henri Nouwen. He writes, "Real grief is not healed by time. It is false to think that the passing of time will slowly make us forget her and take away our pain. I really want to console you, but not by suggesting that time will take away your pain. I would only be telling a lie. If time does anything, it deepens our grief. Real, deep love is, as you know, unobtrusive, seemingly easy and obvious, and so present that we take it for granted. Therefore, it is often only in retrospect, or better, memory, that we fully realize its power and depth. Yes, indeed, love often makes itself visible in pain. The pain we are now experiencing shows us how deep, full, intimate, and all-pervasive that love was. I am writing you in the firm conviction that reality can be faced and entered with an open mind and an open heart, and the sincere belief that consolation and comfort are to be found where our wounds hurt most." Thus ends this morning's reading.
There's a colossal anguish, and it's not an individual matter, but we as a planet people are sick in our soul. We have pathologized pain. We have made it a wrong thing. We have made it like a mistake, rather than acknowledging that we need pain to alert us for what needs attention. And we have been treating it as some kind of enemy to our cheerfulness. I began so in this as I was exploring how personally to befriend this pain, because I knew it was speaking some truth, as is indeed in Buddhism the first noble truth. The first noble truth that the Lord Buddha taught is dukkha, suffering. There is suffering. And if you want to get anywhere, honey, if you want to grow up, if you want to open to life, if you want to be enlightened, whatever, however you describe the state you're after, then you have to face that and see there is suffering. And there were lines from my childhood in the church, the Christian church, you know, "Blessed are they that mourn." And that would come up in sound. And so what happens for people as they get real about their true feelings, when they tell the truth about what they see and feel and know is happening to our world, something so beautiful and so freeing happens. It's a jewel. It's like something Tiffany would like to recreate. Oh, so lovely. Like us. I mean, like us, just like dew on the grass. It's like that poem of Mary Oliver where she says, "You tell me your despair and I'll tell you mine." And this allows the world to become more vivid, seeing the wild geese, seeing this incredible planet that we're in with all the life that's around us. Because we had the courage, the strength to speak of our despair. But precisely because we speak it, we don't stay there. Because that despair is the covering of our love for our world, and we crack it open by speaking it so the love can act. So the key is in not being afraid of our pain for the world, not being afraid of the world's suffering. And if you're not afraid of it, then nothing can stop you.
It's so good to be with you today. Hope you all had a good holiday week this week. Had some, even if you were with a huge bunch of people or by yourself, just enjoying your piece of pumpkin pie, I hope you found something in your heart to be grateful for. Thanksgiving has long been my favorite holiday because besides the great food, which is always wonderful, it's the one holiday that consumerism can't take over completely. Despite all the Black Friday hoopla, they really try. But Thanksgiving isn't about thinking about what you don't have or what you need. It's thinking about what you do have and what you're grateful for. And it's the only time in the year that as a nation we stop and really do that together, that we stop and to make a space to be grateful. And gratitude is a tremendous part of living a good life because it grounds us in what is. And it offers us a bulwark, something to hold on to against a world that's constantly telling us that we're not enough, that if we just had something more, then life would be better. It reminds us that life is not about acquiring and getting. It's about living in right relationship with the people around us and with the earth. Keep doing this. It keeps disappearing. But I'll find it again. I'm grateful for your patience. Finding things that we appreciate helps us to remember that we are connected to one another and to the earth. And it helps shut down my little inner greedy voice that is telling me, you really do need that one more pair of shoes. And even though you have a coat for every season, this one that you just found is just so cute. It doesn't hurt to grab one more, right? But it does. Because if I'm always looking for that one more thing, I'm forgetting about how much I already have. Almost every spiritual tradition out there offers gratitude as one of the paths to spiritual enlightenment, to that cessation of dukkha or suffering. And there's a gratitude journal. I'm sure you've heard this is one of the simplest ways to keep track of those things that you're happy about and you're grateful for in your life every day. And I'm a fan of Instagram, and there's this, I couldn't find it again to share it, but there's a comedian, and he's talking about his therapist told him to keep a gratitude journal and write down 5 things every day that he was grateful for. And he said, the most irritating thing about it was that it worked. It's like, I can relate to that. So, as good as it is, though, as good as gratitude is and how good it makes us feel in our bodies, it's not all that we need. Because no matter how aware we are of the good things and people in our lives, every single life experiences trauma and loss and suffering and anxiety, which can't be dispelled by simple gratitude. Sometimes life is just overwhelmingly bad no matter what we do. That's why I love Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah. It's such an iconic song, and I think it's so classic because it offers that word, hallelujah, in the midst of a lamentation. While he's recognizing baffled kings and cold and lonely refrains, Cohen wrote, there's a blaze of light in every word. It doesn't matter which you heard, the holy or the broken, hallelujah. Because light is in all of it. All of our lives are both holy and broken. Every full life contains that entire spectrum of emotions. And if we try to ignore the bad things, if we try to ignore the pain and make them go away, we lose much of ourselves. If we're grounded in gratitude, it gives us a solid ground that we can hold on to when those inevitable harsh winds flow through our lives. And if we have gratitude, then maybe we don't have to run straight back to the icebox or maybe the Amazon cart or those pharmaceuticals or cocktails or working too much or any of those things that we can use to distract ourselves so we don't have to pay attention to the pain in our lives. There are positive ways of dealing with that, and that's why we have grief is the second word in the sermon today, because acknowledging our grief is related to gratitude, and it reminds us to feel the wholeness of life. It means recognizing the hard and the sad things affect our bodies and live in our bodies. And if we can push them down, but that doesn't mean they go away. As Joanna Macy said earlier, they've pathologized a normal human experience and tried to make us feel like we're failures if we're not happy all the time. But that's ridiculous. Nobody can feel up all the time. At some point, there's going to be a crash. And grief is that natural thing that helps us when we come into that crash, when we come into that pain. It's a natural and even helpful part of life because it's the mechanism that helps us shift from one reality into another. It helps us make that transition from something that we loved to something that is lost. And people who are up all the time are separating themselves from the whole of their beings. There's even a name for it. It's called toxic positivity. And if you live in toxic positivity, you might think you're great, but people who are watching from the outside might know different. Someone who's experienced a lot of grief in the last few years, I know it's not something anybody wants to do. And sometimes when we hit a particular rough patch, it's normal, it's even helpful to sometimes defer that grief a little bit, to put it in a box to deal with once the big project gets done, or once the house is cleaned out, or once the enormity of what we experienced has a little bit of space to breathe into. There's nothing wrong with some short-term compartmentalization. The problem comes when we defer indefinitely, when we never make space to sit down with those feelings and allow them to come up. Because, like it or not, feelings have their way. They're going to come up. I see it in small ways in my relationships. If something's bugging me and I try to just ignore it and push it down, it's going to come out at some point as some sharp or snarky thing that I say trying to be funny. But it still hurts. And it can happen in bigger ways if a partner in a relationship refuses to acknowledge something, some issue, and lets it keep growing and growing and growing until if you addressed it in the beginning, it would have been a small issue, but you let it going until it sinks the entire relationship. I think we've all seen that if we haven't experienced it. We have to be present to our world, present to all that it is, in order to be our whole and fully human selves. If we try to hold all those hard emotions like grief and anguish and pain, it's kind of like holding a beach ball underwater. You can hold it down there a long time, but then if you have another one, you're holding a couple of griefs about beach balls underwater, and if you get a third one, oh my gosh. And they're constantly trying to push up to come out, and all you have to do is lose your attention for a moment, and they pop up, and everybody, including yourself, is splashed by the pent-up energy of those emotions. There's many different kinds of grief. There's that private and personal grief that we all suffer. Then there's a wider collective grief that as societies we deal with. Even as an entire world right now, I think we're dealing with things that are taking a lot of energy to hold down. For many of us, this might be our response to the fear and anxiety around climate change. That's a larger collective grief we might share. And even people who know better probably try to compartmentalize that grief because it's so big that you don't know what to do with it. But holding such a large and heavy grief under the water, under our consciousness, takes so much energy. Is it any wonder so many of us are exhausted? The thought of what is happening to our planet, the extinction of thousands of species, loss of habitat, burning forests, dying coral reefs. This year, we have seen the effects of climate change all around our country, all around our globe, in ways that it's almost impossible to ignore. It hurts your heart. Being of the earth and connected to the web of life, this pain is our pain. And it feels really, really big, so that if we would open to the whole of it, we might just collapse under that weight, not be able to handle it. I know that fear. I know this scariness of looking at what is really happening around us. on the ecological set, on the political sphere, all around the globe as wars and just terrible things happen. But we have to look. And we have to look because when you don't look, it gets even bigger. Because remember when you were a kid and you were in bed and you thought you heard something under the bed and it's got to be a monster, right? And so the more you wouldn't look, the more you had to hide under the covers and even cover up your hands because something really big was under there. But if you were really brave, if you switched on the light and peeked underneath, maybe a spider, maybe a mouse, something that was doable. But that can't be the best analogy because with climate change, it's more like ignoring a screaming fire alarm and telling yourself it's not real. But some part of you continues to hear that screaming alarm, and you can't tune it out entirely. And some part of you is freaking out but frozen, unable to move, holding that beach ball down. What do we do with all that? What do we do with our private pains, with our collective pains, with our collective griefs? How do we allow ourselves to start moving again and to move that through our bodies, through our hearts, out into the world, out into the universe, which can hold it? I think it's the same way we deal with all of loss and sadness in the part of a human landscape. We begin by being here and now. We begin by being present. We begin by breathing in and breathing out, and letting ourselves remember as our hearts broke wide open that we are connected to the whole of life, and that we do not have to hold all of that in our hearts. We can let it go. We can trust the universe will hold it with us. There will be suffering. And it would be lovely if we could all be enlightened. It would be lovely if we could let go of all the attachments we have to people and places and idea, but I don't think most of us, maybe any of us, are quite there yet. And we each of us suffer from loss and disappointment, from sadness and regret. But we don't have to suffer quite as much as we do. We can make space to breathe in the pain, to pay attention to its colors and its shapes, to allow it to go out into the world again. And once we stop suppressing that discomfort, we can release a tremendous amount of energy that will free us up to do all the things that we would like to do. Like releasing that beach ball from the water, we can let go of suppressed emotions and free up some energy that allows us to figure out how we want to live in right relationship with our earth right now. To figure out how we can identify what is right in front of us, what that we are capable of doing. Because there's always something. It doesn't have to be huge. It can be small, and we can see it if we stop pushing it all away. Now, hopefully everyone got a small stone when you came in today. Raise your hand if you need one and we can bring you one. There you go. Excuse me. Now, first, in your mind's eye, I want to imagine you holding the stone out in front of you just for a couple minutes. And then imagine if you were holding it out for an hour, or if you're holding it out in front of you for a day. If you kept holding that stone out in front of you, your arm would fall off eventually. It's just not possible. So today we're going to take that stone and we're going to breathe into it. And we're going to allow any of the images that came up for you during our meditation and attach it to your stone. Feel it. Breathe it through your body. Place all your hurt and pain you're carrying in your body today. Maybe if you weren't even aware of it, place it in your stone. And for those folks of you at home, you don't have a stone, but you can imagine a stone or pick something up that you want to let go of. And at the end of our ritual, you can take it outside and simply release it. But for those here today, I invite you to bring your stone up to our bowls. And the center bowl is filled with water up to the very top. And as we drop our stones into the water, it will spill over the sides, representing all of the unshed tears that we have carried, all of the unshed tears in this entire county, state, country, planet. And we're giving it back because we know we can trust the universe. We can let that pain pass through our bodies, and we can give it away. If it's difficult for you to move and you want someone to come and get your stone, you can still put your energy and your intention into it, and we'll bring it up for you. But right now, we're going to listen to some beautiful music, and everyone is invited. Come up, hold your stone, and then drop it in our water. I invite you now to breathe with me again. Breathe through the release. Breathe and invite new energy into your body. The final step in this process is transformation, but that's never anything that happens on demand. It's the result of continuing this process of gratitude, of grieving, and then of letting go. Our full lives contain a multiplicity of losses, of connections, of experiences, of emotions. And they are what give us the amazing gift of being human. I'm going to introduce my wife, the Reverend Karen Mooney, and she's going to offer us that beautiful hymn by Leonard Cohen. If we're lucky enough to pay attention, we can experience the fullness of life. Blessed be.